All right, are you ready to make the cutest little flower with a hand embroidery stitch called the wagon wheel? Now, you may be familiar with this method with, embroidery floss and hand embroidery, but we're going to change it up a little bit to work with our yarn. This is what the flower is going to end up looking like. And you can see, once again, it's got texture, it's got dimension, it's raised up a little bit, and it does make the cutest little flower you ever did see. So, on our instructions, this is where we're at. We're on step number 9, hand embroidery, the cherry red small flower and the coral small flower, which are right here. Now, because those areas were outlined in black, you certainly trace those areas as well, and that's where we want to start. But you're going to want a hand needle to do this portion. This is not done with a punch needle. So therefore, in your kit, you should have 2 different size needles, and I'm going to take the larger one since I'm working with yarn. You'll also have a needle threader to help you out. So I'm going to start with the red yarn. All right, to thread my needle, I'm just going to take my needle threader, put it through the eye of the needle, and then take my yarn and put it through the loop. Okay, now gently give it a little tug here, right there, and you've got your yarn through your needle. Take that off and you're ready to go. Now, when we did our punch needle earlier, we just continued to take our yarn right off of the skein that it came with. But when you're using a hand embroidery needle, you actually do need an end to your yarn piece. So I like to cut it off at about a yard, but I'm not going to overthink this. I'm going to just go, you know what? About to the end of my hand here, and maybe to my nose is about a yard, and then I'm just going to cut it off. That's going to give you plenty of yarn to make this little wagon wheel or flower. Then I want to tie a knot at the end of my yarn, just like so. All right, so now I have my needle threaded, and now I'm ready to start stitching this first wagon wheel. To do so, I'm just going to put my needle up through the middle and pull my yarn all the way until it stops because of the knot that's on the other side. Now I want to stitch each of those 5 spokes. So I'm going to place my needle down right here and pull it through all the way to the end. To do the next spoke, I'm just going to go up on one side of that spoke and then down in the middle. Again, pulling it nice and tight till it can't go any further. Let's continue that process until we have covered all 5 spokes. So I've now stitched all 5 spokes of the flower, and I want to now lift push my needle through the middle of any of those 2 spokes. So it certainly doesn't matter where you start. You just want to make sure that you've pointed it up through right in between 2 of the spokes and close to the middle of the wagon wheel, and bring it up. All right. Now here's the fun part. I love this. Do you remember weaving? We're going to weave this yarn over and under each of those spokes. At this point, you never push your needle back through the fabric. That's right. You're never going to go down into the fabric. Instead, I want you to think about this like an ice skate. And the ice skate is gliding over this layer of ice. It always stays on top of your fabric. All right, so if I were to go over and under, I'm going to start this first one by going over this first spoke, but then I'm going to move it under the next spoke. Then I'm going to go over and under and so forth. But to do this, I'm actually going to give you a little tip. Yes, you certainly could, just like your needle is pointing, go over and under that way. But you take the risk of that needle tip just digging into your yarn and causing kind of a mess and separating those fibers. Instead, I want you to turn it backwards. That's right. You're going to turn your needle backwards so that now you have more of a blunt curved end to your needle where the eye is. And now because it's not pointy and sharp, it's going to glide right under each of those yarn spokes just beautifully. So by turning it upside down, I'm starting here with the first spoke right here, going over, and therefore now I'm going to go under. See that? I'm going to pull that out here and pull. Now you notice that I've gone under that way, so the next one I'm going to go over, right? And skip that one to go under this spoke and pull. Over the next one and under the first one that you had started with. And each time I do that, I'm just going to give it just a little gentle tug. I don't want to pull it so tight that your rose isn't going to bloom, shall we say, right? So instead, I'm just going to give it a little pull, but still keeping the yarn kind of loose so that it keeps adding dimension and it raises that rose up. All right, I went under this, so I'm going to go over the next one just to be able to then slide it under the next one. Do you see how I'm just gliding that needle over the top like that ice skate? That's exactly what you want to do. You never want to poke in to your fabric until the very end when you have to end it. Continue this process until you've covered all of the spoke areas. Okay, as you can see, I'm getting really close to the end of the spokes, so it looks like my flower's just about ready to be finished off. I'm going to take maybe one more stitch. There we go. And now I'm ready to end it. So to do so, that's when I will turn my needle back around as intended, right? And place it just in that next area, stitch down into the fabric, pull it through, and then I can knot it on the back and snip it off. Let's take a look at it from the front. Ah, isn't that so cute? Now, if you wanted to, you certainly could kind of give it a little lift as well by just placing your needle under some of those rows and just gently tug at it so it blooms even more. And boy, you have the cutest little rose flower made with the wagon wheel stitch.